Hey, we're live. All right, here we go.
Okay.
We're just going to talk real quick about the Naval Kriegsspiel, the Falklands match that we're having upcoming. Um, I'll start by introducing to folks what Simplot 2 looks like. My friend Tom is here. He's going to help chat a little bit as
Yeah.
we move more
Hi,
towards the planning side. So, introduce yourself there, Tom.
Hi, I'm Tom. Uh, I'm very bad at introduction. I don't know what to say more.
It's all right. I'm sure you'll
Mo-
have much to talk about there. All right.
yeah, but
All right. So first off, I just wanted to show some of the people, especially folks that have never played modern naval. There's going to be a couple players that have not. First of all, don't worry about it. We'll help you get through this. What I'm showing. Hold on a second. I need to share this to Tom here real quick.
yeah, send it to me because I'm in
Just
tabletop
see what I'm
right now.
looking at. All right. You should see everything
Okay.
now. You see everything.
I'm connecting. Yes, I see everything.
All right. So first and foremost, why am I showing both sides? Because when I start the actual match, we will allow for the planners from both sides to rearrange things. I would not use the exact same format unless you want the each side to know what you're doing. So let's take a real quick look at the scenario itself, and I'm not going to get too deep into this because again, the setup will be we're going to have a good amount of leeway in the setup as far as the commanders for both sides as far as what's going on. Generally, generally speaking, we're starting on the 1st of May, which historically was when the land troops had not arrived yet, right? So at this point, the main operational goal of the British is to attain air and naval superiority. So that's what the main goal is for this operation. Um, and as you can see here, it starts with a sea state of 5, which is pretty bad. There is a wind of 27 knots at 270, etc. I don't want to get too deep into this. A couple things to point out here, scenario wise, is that, and I'm not going to get too deep into the technical aspects of this, but there are no convergence zones in the vicinity of the Burkwood Bank. Birdwood Bank, excuse me. So in this area of the map, it will be slightly more difficult for a subsurface unit to see a task force going over it, through it. Within, I think they called out,
To hear it.
yes, to hear it and to for passive detections with sonar, right? So I think what they call out is that the convergence zones are at a range of 31 nautical miles with a width of 3.5 miles. We'll get a little bit into that later when we start talking about planning. I don't want to get too deep into the convergence zones. I don't want to scare everybody off.
Yeah,
Um,
I need to make some do some explanation on
yeah.
paper about
Yeah,
paper.
yeah. Just some
I
some
have
very
visualization in head that I need to finish about
right.
convergence zones
So let me just talk
and
very
propagation.
plainly about what each side has, generally speaking. And this isn't. I mean, due to your intelligence level on both sides, I mean, the British would have had pretty significant intelligence on the units that were available. The British would know that the naval forces have left port. All of them have. Now, what they did in this scenario is they historically the Task Force 79.1 and 79.4 were the composition primarily of the Northern Task Force here. As you can see, I'm going to mispronounce all these. Ventisino de Mayo, 25th of May, Task Force was the 79.4. I hope I said that right. No, it is 79.1 with its escorts of the Granville, Drummond, and Guerrico, as well as an oiler or basically their resource ship.
Yeah.
Now, what they did here in the scenario is that they I think this was more of a representation of the entire quotation marks Argentine forces debarking or embarking. Was they added in the Commodoro P and Segui and the Hercules, as well as an oiler. I believe they tried to do this to simulate, as much of the Argentine Navy being egressed as possible. So what they did, at least according to the map that they provided, is they put that task force right here. The 25th of May and its escorts are roughly here. The San Luis, which is I believe it's a diesel submarine.
Yeah,
Correct
I
me on
believe
that.
so.
Okay, so
I don't
that's
think they had any nuclear one.
no, they did not. And I think they had roughly, and correct me later, anybody, but I think they had four of them. Two of them were operational, but one was out of service at the time, etc. I don't want to get too deep into that. All right, and then um, let's see. I want to see how they described this here. Okay, right here. So there were S2E tracker search aircraft were launched from the 25th of May to locate the force. At approximately 3:15, they received the message from Lombardo, enemy tied up with amphibious operations. You're free to attack. This is a little, yeah, this is a little misleading. I think just historically, there definitely were operations, but I don't know how they wouldn't have known that necessarily, right? They detected the task force, the British task force. And I'll show you an image of what that looks like a little bit better in this order of battle, which I've been concocting here. This was an image that was used in that documentary. Hold on a second. As it works to grab the image, give it a second. Okay, all right. Actually, this is the wrong one. I didn't want to look at that one. I wanted to look at the Argentine. All right, so this is just my own tracking sheet here. This kind of gives you the composition for the Argentine Navy as described in the scenario. Here again is the 20th of May task group. This is their escorting task group. I think I'm missing a ship here. I'll add that here in a little bit. There is the General Belgrano task group, which is in the south, as well as this is the direct escort for the 25th of May. All right, so what I wanted to show you was this image over here. So um, these are the tracker wreck flights as depicted here for the 1st of May or dawn of May. So these are the trackers that were coming in from the 25th of May carrier, and this is depicting where they showed up. Excuse me, where they initially saw the British, which was around here. So a pretty good scenario setup. The designers of the South Atlantic War scenario book did their homework, I think. So pretty well depicted. I think I don't know if San Luis was this close originally, but hey, whatever. It's a scenario, right? And again, when we play the actual match, we will have. I will give a significant amount of leeway as far as starting position and approach, etc. Also, I will allow the Argentinians to reposition their resources at their airfields and so forth. All right. Now to get in a little bit of the nitty gritty of how the heck are we going to track all this, right? So back to Simplot 2. This is a great tool. I wrote the author's name down, so I wouldn't. Kevin Martell wrote this program. It's great. I really feel like if this program didn't exist, I probably would never have stepped into Harpoon 5. Honestly, this is the first modern naval sim war game that I had really done too much with. I might have played in one or two occasionally at a convention over the last 20 or 30 years, but primarily I was pre-Dreadnought or earlier Age of Sail primarily player. All right, so you're not alone. I'm still relatively new, so I've only been doing this for a few months. So back at this. So what this is showing all view or all sides. Okay, so as you can see here, this is all sides. Now when we start planning as sides, we will be breaking off into rooms in Discord, as I've already set up a few here. Okay, but we might end up having impromptu break off rooms in case, for example, any captain takes a sole role of any one of the subsurface units. You will likely be put off into your own room. Could be very lonely, but I know some people enjoy that factor. So this could be a really interesting aspect of this double blind or quadruple blind match, if you will. All right. So what this does is it shows you everything. I'm able to plot movements at this level, at this strategic level. What we would normally probably do is come up with a heading and speed. I'll just do this for example's sake. Let's just say the task group was going about 220, heading at I don't know, roughly 15 knots as a group. I don't think that's unwarranted. We put some speed leaders here, but so what this program allows for is it allows you to see the speed leading of the turn as depicted here. You can change the time frame and so forth. So as a player, you really don't need to know all this, but just realize that at the main umpire table, this is pretty much going to be the master copy, if you will, of the conflict. Okay, and I have the ability to do movement. As you can see, I can continue to move task groups here if I wanted to track it this way. It is probably how I will do it. But there is a certain point where if you have too many turns in this application, it can kind of get bogged down. In this case, we don't have a lot of single units being tracked because we're doing it at a task group level, at least at this point. Um, so yes, I will be using its movement plotting at some point, but the initial planning is going to be primarily done on Tabletop Simulator, and I'll show you that here in a second. So, um, it's still I still haven't decided whether or not we will use SimPlot directly once we get into a tactical battle. I have a feeling we will, and in that case, we're going to probably do a double blind where I'm hoping that the referee at both tables will have a copy of the files and they'll be able to show you, for example, only blue, right? And then once we're in a tactical battle, then we would start using Simplots. The main reason for using Simplot again, which is it tracks things very well. All right. So the thought is that prior to the task groups meeting up, that we will have at least one meeting. I don't know what the length of that meeting will be, an hour, 2 hours at a scheduled time for your side, right? But at that point, we would come to Tabletop Simulator. Can you see this okay, Tom? Or
Mm-hmm.
you're probably in it anyway, so whichever, however works for
I
you.
I mean, but anyone else will see it
Right, sure.
properly. I see it
All right.
in the stream.
Okay, so here's where you know the cookie gets crumbled. This is where the rubber meets the sea here. Um, so for that planning meeting is going to be extremely important. You definitely obviously want to take part in that. How long it takes is really kind of be probably up to the decision of, well, just how quickly you can make a decision on how you're going to split things up. So things to keep in mind here, especially as the British, is that you're starting with a combined task group 3178. Now, the way it was described in the scenario is that it's all available units up through May 1st. So, Tom, you may want to jump to the others sharing. So what that represents from the scenario is any ship listed in the scenario available up through approximately April 25th. And now what I did here for my own tracking purposes is I made a list of all those. So here I have the three submarines, right? The nuclear attack submarines. So those are going to be independent units. It is a combined task group of its own. It's task group 3243. And I have an organizational chart which I'll provide later as well. This was just from Wikipedia. But as you can see here, Admiral Woodward's carrier battle group was 3178. It later gets added to with Fearless and other. There's a South Georgia group as well. But the two primary task groups are Woodward's battle group and then the submarine group, which is led by Vice Admiral Herbert. And I believe that was run primarily out of London via SATCOM links. So, so there might be some interesting opportunities for an individual to be the submarine commander, as well as the battle group commander, etc., and then assigning subgroups and so forth. So it could be kind of interesting, especially how those two commanders interact will be very important during this, I think. All
Uh,
right, Tom, I'm going to kind of slowly open the floor here. I thank you for attending, of course, but so let's
yeah,
just talk about what people would do and think about, right? The part of this introduction
sure.
is really for me to kind of determine what information is going to come out of this and what how am I going to process that information. I
From the
think
ground scale. Yeah,
right.
first problem
Go ahead. Just
thing
tell
that
me
you
what
should.
your problems would be as a player right now. Just kind of just very openly just say
Oh, as a player.
yeah.
First of all, we should, because these are task groups, and task groups will be the formation of a task group will be players' responsibility, right? They can
Right, but at
form task
this,
group as they
okay, so that's a good question. So, first of all, you have a large task group, right? This is a pretty
right,
large task group. Now, one of your first things, probably amongst the 3 or 4 players, would be to decide, okay, who's going to take ultimate responsibility for the battle group. Okay, so you probably would
right,
assign, you would assign a battle group commander, and then you would probably, I'm assuming, and you don't have to, you probably would assign a subsurface commander, right, for this task group as well, right?
right.
You would more than
For
likely want somebody that understands subsurface. Harpoon probably would be best,
um,
and
maybe the you would for subsurface groups you would need someone who at least understands sonar
mm-hmm.
and its quirks and
All right.
limitations.
So I'm
It
just
doesn't
gonna
need to be someone understanding the rules.
put some submarines out
Uh,
here, and I'm gonna put a
yep,
couple. Just gonna put one. We're not using these for unit. Just
sure.
for playing around sake and moving stuff. So
Yeah, I was thinking about the how the formation is composed. The players
yeah,
will need
okay.
to
Let's
have
take
some.
before we get
Yeah,
too into that, let's go look at the other scenario that
sure.
describes that. There is a scenario in here that describes that formation, and you have a very good point. And what I was thinking of the other day is that we could kind of take, oh, gravy, where is it? Come on, where are you, baby? Just give me 1 second, I'll find it. There's a point at which they showed the formation, and they showed it really nicely. Bear with me. At some point, we will get to the scenario where you take the. Why am I not getting to it? Wow, really? Excuse me for not having that bookmarked. You know what? Let's look at that. Sheffield is hit 46. Let's go to that page real quick. That's where we're basically. Oh boy. Bear with me, bear with me, bear with me. Come on, baby. So, what I'm thinking of doing is setting up a formation area where we can. Oh, come on. Here we go. Here we go. Do you see this now?
Yeah,
Took me
I see.
forever to find that. So, what I would think is that we would want to probably set up, and you can probably set your own formations too.
Yeah,
I'm running out of
I
emerald.
believe we should give players.
Right. So, what we
Uh,
could do, I think, day of, is we could probably set up even just, like, let's just say we were setting up a, let's just say we put a, this might not be the best way to do it, but we set up an area for, and let's call it like task group. 17.8 formation, or however we want to do it, however we want to show it. That's a horrible color.
Yeah.
I hate this thing. Let's make this white. There we go. Something like that, where you could then, say, what is this, Hermes? You could have Hermes, you could have Invincible, and you don't. I mean, this type of thing, these formations could be determined ahead of time, right? And I think that's probably the best way to do it. Is as you decide to split this, or as you decide to create formations of it, I think it would be nice. I can probably pre-set up Google Forms for or just Google Docs or something like that, where somebody could define and redefine their task groups. This is what I wanted to talk about, so that I can get through the nitty gritty of what people would ask for day of. So I think absolutely we should have formation. We should have task group.
No, yeah, the players get should get the list of their task group.
Yep.
And I can provide some very basic form, or very basic, like I don't know. In previous Harpoon forms, there were this range circles created specifically to mark the ship positions in a formation.
Yep.
I can find it somewhere or create new, and this would be sent to players. I believe people can, in, I don't know, Microsoft Paint or something, paint the position of their ships, and
right,
then
they can
we
do
can
whatever they want. They can, yeah, exactly. We can just show them how to, and I think that they would probably want to do that during that planning meeting, or at least decide on that.
No, the formations need to be set up at planning, I think.
Yeah.
This is something that would be made.
What I might do is offer a suggested format, and then they can just rearrange it however they want.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Okay.
They certainly need to get the battle group composition and some form to create a formation from it.
Right.
Beside the submarines.
So I'm thinking of still putting up some form of Google Forms so that people can recompose their task group, right? Because again, the British task group is very large, and I'm assuming that they would set up subgroups or subtask
split
groups.
it. Okay. So I didn't know the British task group is not so rigidly.
No, they don't start that way. Now, if somebody wants
they can split it. Okay,
right,
that's nice.
And I'm also considering. Let's just say this was the scenario start point. I would say I'd probably give them a little bit of leeway within reason. Probably not past a certain northern mark, like this 100 grid mark. I would probably say, hey, you can set up anywhere probably within this area here if you
certain amount of range from the starting position.
Sure, exactly. And then speaking of ranges and so forth, at least I think originally I had it so that or at least I had originally computed it that 2 inches was approximately 1 hour's worth at 15 knots. But that's just a rough estimate. I think I need to recheck that. But see, this is 50 nautical miles. That's roughly, yeah, that's right. 2 inches on this map is roughly 15 knots. And I just very, very plainly, as we're talking about task groups here, most task groups, what? How fast would they be going? Probably about 15 knots.
Between 15 to 20.
Right.
20 would be max in the formation movement.
So just for the sake of individuals that haven't played before, I kind of roughly tell people 15 knots. Now, subs are going to go potentially, they're going to do whatever pattern they want, right? They might go 15 to 20 at a certain depth, but then they would...
I'm not sure if at this point British use the same, and if they even use it now, the sprint and drift tactic, but I would presume it was used because this is the...
If I'm not mistaken, and this was in reading, I think it was during 100 Days, the book, I remember it being mentioned that they would establish a pattern of every 2 hours. I can't remember if it was every 2 hours.
This is the only tactic that probably works underwater to this day.
So,
There's no better way to
and the only way
check
that they
at least
could,
the large area.
and the only way that they could communicate back to London was via satcom. So the
Yeah.
only, and they wouldn't really have. They probably rarely, if ever, had radar line of sight communications, and I don't even know if they can even do that through their.
They probably wouldn't even have. You know what? If it's. Uh, I didn't read 100 Days, and I don't know what tactics they used, but basically the submarines would be nowhere near the task group,
No, right.
just to avoid the friendly
Blue on
fire.
blue, right? They don't want blue
Blue
on
on
blue.
blue.
Yeah,
I know that in most submarine operations, I think there are even in Harpoon 3, the computer one, you could set the exclusion zone where,
right.
for instance, submarine couldn't get near because the task group just attacked
Right.
anything underwater in this zone.
I'm glad you mentioned that because later on they also established boxes, right? They established boxes around the
But
landing point.
this is to establish by the players, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah,
They
absolutely,
should.
absolutely, totally. So what they would probably do is they would want to establish no-fly zones, right? So for
No
example,
fly
what?
zones, no exclusion zones for
Yes,
submarines, let's
totally,
say.
entirely, and they could rearrange that. The really cool thing about this is I'm not going to I'm not going to very I'm not going to very strictly enforce the rule of engagement. Now, the rules of engagement, though, did originally during the Falklands, they did keep you from going into, I think, what you would consider the Argentine maritime ownership, right? So you wouldn't be able to go within 40 nautical miles of the shore,
Yeah, right.
and then the zone itself. If we go back to here, I'm going to turn on circles here. But if we go back to
Sure.
the let's just show all sides. It's okay. This was the exclusion zone. This big blue one right here.
Right.
So what normally what what Belgrano tried to do, right, back down here, was that it
Yes.
tried to skirt the zone, right? And then Conqueror
Uh-huh.
came down, detected it, and this is depicted in that
I
one
believe
image
I remember vaguely that
right here.
they attacked it outside the zone.
Yes, they did.
Or
They got permission to do that
they got
while
permission,
tracking
right?
them from Margaret Thatcher
Yeah.
directly.
Yes.
I think Margaret Thatcher had the final decision on that. So that was depicted in this image here. All right. Again, I wouldn't do exactly like what history did, otherwise Conqueror's going to find you. All right. So back to where we were. All right. So I'm just trying to think logistically about problems, issues. All right. So at some point, once you've defined your compositions, right? And
Right.
again, we'll allow the Brits to redefine their boxes, to redefine their rules of engagement roughly. The assumption is that at on May 1st it becomes a total exclusion zone. Okay, so it started out as a
Okay.
maritime exclusion zone. And eventually,
Mm-hmm.
it became a total exclusion zone, and I'm going to take the rule of engagement governor off. You can engage anybody anywhere at this point, other than within 40 nautical miles of the shore,
Right.
roughly. I'll get a better. I need to look up on that maritime rule, but
Yeah.
in other words, the British didn't want to enact an act of war directly against Argentina. There was no declaration of war, if I recall
Yeah.
correctly. They were fighting,
I don't
but
think either.
right. All right. So
Not the first time in history. So.
So let's go back over that. So one of the first things people would do would assign commander roles. At this point, you don't need to
Yes.
get too granular. You can go
No.
ahead
No.
and you can go ahead and decide who would run what ships once the task group gets within a certain bubble of another task group or another unit. Then yeah, you might want to go ahead and pre-assign
Okay.
captains per
I
ships and stuff. Go ahead.
I have one question. I believe important one. Do you disclose the scenario victory conditions, the exact conditions? Because I bet the victory conditions for Harpoon scenario mention what ships can be crippled or
I think it was
not.
just here. I can
They
always go back.
probably are very strict about what constitutes total victory, like
Yes.
decisive victory, and this will be the number of ships that are crippled or the certain ships that are crippled or not.
If you go back to the
And
shared, if you go back to the shared screen,
both
I'll show.
yeah, exactly. And do we? I sometimes when I play double blind scenarios, I usually don't give people victory conditions or just give them vaguely, just because these victory conditions can first of all telegraph the enemy composition to the player, sometimes exact composition. And
Right, I'm not
second
too
thing,
worried. Yeah.
if they know exactly what they need to attack to gain victory conditions, they I sometimes modify the victory conditions just because of that, because this can just steer the way the players
Mm,
play, like sacrificing units that are not really
yep.
relevant the victory conditions to just get the certain units that will give them victory. So I don't know if how do you want to play this one with them? Do you want to give them exact victory conditions or just general orders and see
I
what
think
happens?
just general orders and see what happens. But I think here, I'm trying to think of other little problems. Okay, so as far as
So
plotting, is concerned, and this is kind of open for debate. My initial thoughts here are to have the task group commanders plot out and tell me if this is insane or not. I would say
mhm.
they would probably want to do at least 12 hours of plotting. I don't think that's unheard of. So roughly,
What's the distance? What's the distance between
let's
the
let's go back and look at
Falklands
Simplot.
and Hermes right now,
Here,
roughly?
if you come back to the desktop, let's
Because
take
this is the scenario to establish the sea superiority.
superiority,
Uh,
air and sea support superiority. Yeah.
so there won't be any landing or something. Yeah,
No.
then 12 hours shouldn't be too much because this is like 24 per
Yeah. 20.
what
Yep.
was the
Yeah. Intermediate.
not incremental intermediate
Mm-hmm.
24 intermediate turns, but we can easily move by 1 hour. No, I think 12 hours is okay for this size of the engagement.
Let's take a look. If you come back to
And
the
for this distance 12 hours wouldn't be too much.
right, so roughly, and I think I had already composed it. That let's just say that was 2 inches. So if so, in 10 hours, you would go 20 inches roughly with the. Let's just use this carrier. If for some reason the British were extremely bold and they wanted to, I think what we would do is probably you would march. You would as a commander, you would probably, as you're planning, you would probably, let's just say 6 inches out or something like that, right? So that's 3 hours worth. So you would
Yeah,
probably,
time
we would need some
times
form
4.
of, let's use the drawer.
Could you just
Let's just
simplot?
draw it out. I think
Okay,
right about
it
here.
can be done.
Well, this is the thing. They need to be able to plan from here. I think that the the planning session has to occur in Tabletop Simulator. So roughly,
Probably yes, it would be
yes.
easier for all parties
So they need to go 6 inches here.
participate.
The problem the problem is that you can't draw and measure at the same time. But all right, so what I would suggest, let's bring in
But
some
I
models.
believe uh, the grid that you imported from Simplot. What's this grid is in nautical miles?
Yes, these are so this is
It's
50
50,
this is 50 nautical
100.
miles. Yeah.
So 15 knot.
It's
Mm,
2 inches roughly.
okay, but
Yeah.
15 knots times 10 in 10 hours, they would move 150
Yes, so
nautical miles. So
roughly
they
roughly
would move
that long.
from
So that
let me find
about 20
where are
inches.
your go markers.
About 20 inches.
In 10 hours they would cover
15 inches.
the distance from here to here,
Yep.
so it's not too much. So 12 hours should be okay. So
I think 12 hours is
this
about
is the
right.
distance that they do in 10 hours.
Yep. And 2 hours beyond that would be about like that, probably.
In about 2 hours will be 30, not 30. So this is middle way is 25. So this is around.
All right. So what? So let's
This is
just
the
say.
distance around 2 hours.
So let's just say they wanted to do some waypointing, if you will. So what I would suggest to them would be I'll supply these marbles or whatever however they want to do it, but I'll try to supply them as many things as they can. But
Well, when do you want to
I'm sorry.
play it? When do when do you want to play it?
All right. So the match itself, I'm probably not going to do until January 9th. But
Okay,
so the pre-planning, I want to give them as much time as
hmm
they want. Really, they should be able to pre-plan
sure.
as much as they want.
Oh, okay. Then I can supply you with some specific markers or special markers.
Oh, right, like
Okay.
rulers or something like that with predefined knot limits or something like that would be cool. Like
Yeah,
yeah,
I can do that, and I can use some like beads or
yeah, right,
markers, round markers that will have icons or
right. So
something.
let's just say okay, so that was 6 inches, and then they want to go maybe another 4 inches this way, and then you just mark it by keeping the thing down. This is the really rough way to do it. So there's 4 more.
Yeah, but it's okay for now. I
Yeah, exactly. And then if they wanted to go another whatever, in other words, they can do. Um, the one thing I wanted to possibly do for folks is to give them kind of predefined patterns, like especially for the subsurface units. Is that let's just say the Spartan
uh,
ended up over here, and then it wanted to do a certain search pattern. How do you think we should define search patterns just by its breadth? You know what I'm saying? Its breadth and
well,
width.
for few hours,
Right, like what would that be?
the
Like for
crafting.
example, I think it would be nice to give them a pre-plotted boxes for hour. Like
Yeah,
this represents four
the area that
hours.
they
Yeah, exactly.
can. I'm thinking about it because you probably could. I was thinking about it earlier, much earlier than this, where given the
Oh
sprint and
shoot.
drift tactic,
Right.
how large box you can cover in a certain amount of time, because it's usually you drift for, I don't know, it also depends probably on
Right.
the sonar on the area you want to cover, but you would drift with from 3 to 5 knots for, yeah, I don't know how long they actually
So
do this.
anything
Probably for half an hour, and then sprint 50 to 20 knots for another for
right,
10.
totally entirely. Right. And that these are the types of things like if you what could definitely use help on is just kind of like predefining what that looks like from a time perspective and what that looks like from a plotting
Yeah, time
perspective. Yeah.
perspective, I don't sure if there are any certain established patterns. I believe it
So
depends on the size
what
of
I
the
would
area.
what I'm also going to
Hmm.
do, and I think now I'm really thinking that it would be best if I taped their planning meetings private. If
Hmm.
I attended their planning and then I taped it so that I could review it later, just for clarity. Um, that way they can just talk very openly and they can show just very plainly by just literally drawing, hey, I want to do this, I want to come here, I want to do a pattern like this. You know what I'm saying? They should be able to kind of
Yeah,
openly describe what
and
instead of getting too complicated. Like we can't do this with an order. Um,
I
this
no,
particular
no. I
yeah.
think they should such patterns should be drawn on
Right, they
something,
should just say,
because
hey, I want to do this and then I want to do
you can
this.
write them down, but deciphering it while both ways is
Right.
just
Like if
too much
somebody,
hassle.
yeah, right. So if somebody said, I'm Conqueror and I want to come down here and then I want to do a zigzag pattern for however long I'm allowed to for
Yep.
for the remainder of my 12
Yeah, and
hours, right?
the only problem with this is are like technical limitations because I don't have these problems because I'm accustomed to graphic programs and I have bunch of them.
Right. But I
But
mean,
yeah, the
just
easiest way for the normal people.
they just exactly they need to indicate, hey, I want to come here and then I want to do a pattern for a certain period of time, and
No,
that's
you
it.
know
That's
what?
all they should be able
I
to tell.
think this should be enough. I
Yeah.
wouldn't even. The reason I wouldn't even bother with it being very precise
Right.
is that when you do this like you show it, there will be a little errors or little mismanagement, and in
Right.
my opinion, that's okay
They could just do
because
this too. They could
as we
just
play, these maneuvers we do normally, especially in like precise programs, are too precise for reality in that they don't take into account some navigational errors or
right. Totally. Yeah.
displacement due to other factors, and I believe
Right.
this is doing this little like hazy would be okay because the real thing wouldn't be
All right. So here's the deal.
precise to
So
nautical mile even.
let's just say for some crazy reason this was their plan, right? That they wanted to
Right.
take the task group down here, move it around a little bit, take Conqueror
Mhm.
down here. This guy is over here just doing a real simple pattern. So then what would I do? As the umpire, as the table umpire, I've videotaped what their plan basically.
Yeah.
I'm able to review that plan, and then I would take it to Simplot, and what I would
Yeah.
do is I would, let's just say Conqueror ended up here. Neg 30, neg 90. Let's just say that's where they end up. So eventually I would just physically move them. God bless. This is my memory's taken off. What did I say? Neg. Darn it. Let's just say I wanted to get them as neg 50, neg 90. I would physically go in and probably just put them where they end up
Right.
because
In
first
a
of all,
given
I
time
wish you
because I
could just
understand this is the starting position and this
right.
is
This is where they end up, or I would take both their plans, I would plot it out, just by looking at both of them, probably even using a piece of paper, just to determine where they would get as close as they could get. So
to each other.
Belgrano, right? So Belgrano, let's just say they pattern themselves to go here and then
You
here.
know what would be best probably uh, beside beside the drawing where they are. I would give it to players as
A
players'
form.
responsibility to mark 1 hour like with the beads or something.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a good
one
idea.
hour intervals where they are on their track or on their course. So let's say
Hmm.
they would mark
Yeah, right.
this is 12 yeah
They
this
would
is
do this
1200
basically.
hours. This
Yeah,
is and in our intervals I believe is okay. One if we play for 12 hours it wouldn't
yeah.
be
I agree.
so yeah.
Now,
So this is
if they loitered, then you
10,
then it,
100, 1100, 1200,
yeah, and then
and so
if
forth. So
they
and
if
mhm.
they did a search pattern, you could even mark it. You could even say you can have them mark it and say, you know, search pattern Z or whatever one they want to call it. So in other words,
Yeah, whatever,
yeah,
right.
yeah, I agree.
So that
That's
you know
cool.
where they are at each hour.
Hmm.
And what I would do in your place, but that's just me, I would set up the map, and I can help you with that on technical level. I would see the map from above, like if you in
Hmm.
Tabletop Simulator, if you see a map from above, just set it as orthogonically as I can. Just make a screenshot,
Hmm.
do the same with the Argentinian plan, and
Yep.
then I would superimpose them in graphic program,
Yep.
and I can superimpose them for you, like seeing through each other, and then you can I can draw you the distance between certain points of certain formations at a
Yep.
given time. And
Yep. Yeah. I mean.
then you can easily see when they are in detection range, and then you can redraw them in Simplot
So
at this
here's
exact point.
here's a question. All right, here's a question. Here's a more logistical question. Let's just say Conqueror was that close to Belgrano if Belgrano just happened to follow history. But should that stop the entire? See, this is the thing. Is
Yeah,
it, it
should that start action for everyone, although the Hermes is nowhere near anyone else.
just like so? Just like in a regular
That's
game,
the problem.
right? So
The
that
main question now is, do we play it? Because do we play it live or PBM like style? Do we
yeah,
play
but
it in
yeah, I mean, everybody who's playing probably is intending for it to be a long day. It would
Yeah,
be.
because if you got this situation, you should have some. You can do this good without, I believe, another ref that just takes the submarine player to
Right.
decide on the different table
Yes, I
or
think so.
something like that,
Yes.
and go with him while the rest of the
Right,
action
because
is.
these guys aren't going to necessarily. Let's just say a fight happens here. That fight can occur while all this stuff is inching forward completely
Yeah, the
separately.
problem with submarines is that it is more probable than not that conqueror will detect the
Something.
other
Yes.
side, while the other side has no have no way of telling that they are tracked. They don't even know they will detect it.
Well, right,
So
and they would have, and that. So,
so you
we
would
would
need the
contact through direct message to that commander. What do they want to do? When do they
right.
want to strike? When do they want to wait
Right,
for this stuff?
you should need to take the Conqueror Commander one on one and
Yes.
track with
Yeah,
him
and we
until
can
he is
create.
detected
Right.
by the Belgrano
Mm-hmm.
group in this example. It's hard logistically. It's hard logistically if you play it live.
Yes, but
It
I
will
think I'm gonna still make a go out of it. So that's what I want to do. I want to get that planning session done ahead of the holidays, right?
no
So
planning need to be ahead of. Yes.
yeah, so that we have a good amount of time to take a really good look at that planning and say, this is what's going to
Yeah.
happen likely, right?
Mhm.
And then decide how to break up that day. And here's the thing about that day: if we know that a certain period of time people don't need to be attentive, then we can easily say, "Hey, captains A, B, and C, you can go take a break
Yes,
for 2 hours,"
exactly.
and so forth. But
Sure.
to be, without saying what's going on, just say, "Hey, look, we don't think that you are going to be in an operational range within. You come back at 5 p.m. or whatever, and we'll be able to figure it out." I want to make a concerted effort to have a long day match that results
Sure.
from the planning. Yeah.
The things that you need to do beforehand. Surely we need to have this planning. Wait. I had a thought and I forgot. What you need to be, because we would start from the, even when you have plan of both sides. I would check beforehand where is the first detection
Hmm.
and start from there.
Yeah. Absolutely.
uh,
Yeah.
Basic game. That's one. Another thing that you need to be prepared for is you should prepare most uh, of the information you need beforehand.
Yeah.
Like
Absolutely.
for the radar it is rather simple because radar is just one range band.
Right.
But for
For
submarine,
the
you should
air.
prepare the tables
Oh
for
yeah.
submarine
Totally.
sonar detection, and
Totally.
I
I'm.
already have sheets for air-to-air combat,
Yeah. I'm gonna
and
have.
I
I'm
need
gonna
to.
go ahead and make all the air mission planning forms.
Yeah,
I'm going to do a separate video from this on how to adjust those or how those would be adjusted. And again, that's primarily going to be the umpire kind of making those or adjusting those missions because here the Argentine. I might even do another one of these videos where we look at it from the Argentine perspective because the Argentine perspective has a lot more air. So I might do another one of these videos solely
right.
with
And
those.
I would help you
Yeah,
because the
we we
The
need to.
endurance rolls, for instance, are a little bit of mess in my opinion after they simplified them.
Right. So
Uh,
I think we will do a part two of this intro from the Argentine perspective, maybe like next
sure.
week, next week around the same
Okay.
time, and then by then I might have some more ideas about how to handle this better. And so this is part one of the intro, and
Mhm.
we'll probably stop now, but we'll do a part two where we take it from the Argentine perspective and talk a little bit about how air planning would occur, because
Next week.
they're obviously going
Okay.
to have.
You know what? I would ask guys what their technical uh, capabilities are, because maybe, excuse me, the easiest way probably would be even to, oh, but we, okay, never mind, because we'll have the staff meeting, because just send guys the map that they can print and write with
Yeah,
pads on them and scan them and send them to us, but it will be collaborative thing that might take too long.
right. So
But I think
again,
this will be
this
enough.
could be interesting. It's going to be very interesting, I think.
Yeah,
It's very.
what we should do one day is to use the grid properly, because I don't know why I even have a friend where when I played my command at sea scenarios, everyone just asked me, please write down the range from basically from my ship to each point on the map, including some reference points or something like that. And most of them I said, guys, you have a grid. Grid is easy to read, and I don't know why no one ever used the grid to calculate anything. Where
You mean the grid on the grid that you
Yeah,
can
on the
enact
map,
on the
because
table, right? Okay.
I have situation like that. Let's say this Hermes and Invisible, and I in situation like that I have people ask me to write me the exact range between them, and I just said, just look at the grid. There's 50
Yeah,
nautical
exactly.
miles between them, and middle of this is 25, middle of this is 12.5, and you can calculate this really quickly. And if
Right.
if it
I think
taught
there's a
people how to
way.
do that, this would help lot of
Now,
people.
what I did here is I just allowed the simplot gridding because I knew that to be exact. You know, I kind of,
Yeah,
yeah,
I know,
yeah,
and but that's enough for this scale. If it would
yeah,
be scale where hundreds of yards are, the distance need to be known up to hundred of yards, it would be probably a problem. But here, it's not a big problem if they are displaced 1 mile or even
what
10
I'm
miles, because this would be probably the navigational error that they do.
right. What I'm very
On
interested to see is how they handle like combat, how they handle
radius.
patrols, how they handle how many Harriers in a patrol, where are they going to send the patrols. These are things I'll probably talk a
Yeah,
little
and
bit more about when we talk a little bit
for
more about
that,
airmen.
I would, yeah, we'll need to talk about that. And for that, there were very nice. There is even very nice, I believe, US Navy's plot chart for it on the Google.
Okay.
I will send it to you later, where they just can mark because normally you do this by marking the position of each ship on a grid. That there is like
Right. I
a
understand.
circular grid,
Right. And then you
and
say,
that
and then you just do it more like a as a on the this mark, combat
yeah,
patrolling
because all
zone.
of
Yeah,
this will be relative to the formation center.
exactly. Very similar to how
Uh,
it's done in the computer game, honestly, which is kind of interesting.
yeah, in the original one, yes, the
Uh-huh.
original one you use it very well, where you had this formation grid where you set
Yes,
up
that's exactly right.
patrols.
Yep, and that'll
Yeah,
help with combat air
uh,
patrols too. Yeah, because
Harpoon 3, I remember, had it even better, because you could there
and I
you
don't want to
had,
get.
and I don't know if
I want it to be very open. I want it to be very, hey, just write it
no,
down. You know, yeah,
because
because I don't want to get too
originally it is just
simulationist.
no, I don't say about simulate, because there is a thing that I thought how to handle better, because normally you just have this formation in relation and patrols in relation to the center of the group, correct?
Uh-huh.
But in Harpoon 3 you had computer game, you had not only the formation, but you could establish something called threat axis, where you
Uh-huh.
just set the set the line from which the air attacks are most probably uh, going to come at you. Because let's say if you move next to the Falklands, and let's say there is what was the name of the airfield? I
Port
can remember.
Stanley.
Yeah, let's say you are
Bombarding it.
you
I mean,
think you think you will be attacked from Port Stanley with airplanes. So your threat axis from here is, let me take some drawing tools. This is the threat axis to Port Stanley now, but if you move guys here, your threat axis is shifting.
yep. Yep.
And but I guess they just can write it down like
Yep.
set a patrol on the line between your formation and Port Stanley,
Yep.
some
So I think what I'll
range
do
from you.
is, yeah. So we'll use this, but then I might let the whoever the overall commander is for that might I might have a sheet that
Yeah, sure.
just is also just a written order, like a standing order as well too. I think we're definitely going to want standing orders
Yeah,
too.
I think I would give them just sheets and play with it also and hear what they have to
Yeah,
say,
and I'm going to
and
definitely.
we'll
I
see.
think I'm definitely going to tape their planning sessions so that in case
Yeah,
there's
but
any questions
I
about it, we
believe
can.
Tabletop Simulator is good enough.
Yep.
We don't need to be precise
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think so. No.
every
All
mile.
right. Because really, it's going to be a
And
combat.
if
It's going to be a detection radius, and I'm going to use just a very basic percent chance. Like,
right,
so as
right, and
those,
when you go to tactical, yes,
yeah. So when those
then you
bubbles
only need the
meet,
bearing.
there will just be a certain percent chance that there will be a match that occurs, if you will, based on how, just a very rough estimate, and then it might take a few more minutes to detect or something like that. There's going to be some variation, but it'll be a judgment, you
There
know.
should be
And then you
because
just play Harpoon
something.
5. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So sure, I will find you this formation sheet for now and send it to you. I know there was one in the previous, the Harpoon 4, it was with forms. It might be even still on their web page, but
Yep.
I know there are other formation sheets like that on Google.
All right. For now, I'm gonna go ahead and end, and maybe we'll do a part
Yeah, me
two.
too.
Maybe we'll do a part two that's more around air mission planning next time from the Argentine perspective. But that's about it.
Sure.
Yep.
Mission planning, as I've shown you, I'm creating some cheat sheets for that. They are much simpler than
Yep.
anticipated because the current endurance
Yeah.
rules
The
are
actual
much
forms
easier.
themselves are pretty good too. If you saw, hold on a second.
Yeah,
Yeah, those
for
are
me,
really
but
good. Yep. Cool.
oh, I didn't see this one.
Yeah,
Oh,
this is
okay.
awesome. You can do leg. Watch this.
Ah, you
You
can
can
add.
put
Okay,
legs in.
so
Watch.
I don't really need to.
I
Okay,
don't
so
think
I
you
don't
do.
really
No, because then you just say how fast you want
need
to
to
go,
use this sheet.
and then you just say how
Okay,
far you
okay.
want to go, and then you just
No,
calculate.
I was thinking you were saying about the aircraft forms because this was the name they had, I believe, air planning sheet or something like that, and this
I
was
messed this up.
the form for the
The one
aircraft.
thing to
But
make the one thing to make note of is their note up here is to always try to use tab because there's some weirdness. There's kind of some weirdness if you don't do it right. There it goes.
okay,
That's awesome,
so
isn't it? And it tells you how much range it
yeah,
used, how much you got left, and then all you gotta do is add
yeah,
another
that's
leg.
nice.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
That's great.
I think Larry wrote
I
this.
need
I
to
think.
download it because I know they added some things. I
Yeah, the
asked
only
them
and then
to
watch
the
this,
aircraft
watch
sheet.
this, watch this. So then if you let me calculate. Oh, shoot. Let's just do another 100 miles.
Yeah, you need to add
But
more.
let's just do that. Oh, God, see that's the thing. It doesn't
That's
like.
the thing. But without enter or tab or
Yeah,
something,
there we go. Now it did it.
it doesn't register.
Yeah, you just got to tap through it. There you go.
Yeah, weird
So what's
things.
cool? Watch this. So it does all
Mhm.
that. It does all that compute. That's brilliant. But then let's start over. Watch this. Clear all the legs. Oh, why then? Okay. But this is where you do it. This is all you gotta do is rename it, say what type of mission you want,
Yeah,
give it
cool.
an ID. This I think is the
That's
formation.
cool. That
I think this is the nautical mile. I don't know what this is. The percentage. This is the formation
formation.
deprivation.
I believe it's just. Oh no. Go there. There was a tooltip. I believe it wrote that it's if you stay right there, the tooltip should. Oh, look, total AC information,
I didn't know that. That's just the number of formation.
not just the number of aircraft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, cool. But it's awesome. And then all you gotta do, and then you can have up to three drop tanks, right? A center line and two
Yeah, because
wings.
this is I believe the
Oh,
well
it's
some
so
aircraft I
awesome.
believe use four, but
Yeah, which I guess you could just
no, you
double.
just can
You just
stack
double
them
it.
up
Yeah,
because it's
exactly.
at range. It doesn't tell you
In other words, I could just
drop
say
tank. It
380 if
just
I wanted to do two of
oh
those.
you know why? Because maybe here you can add the air to air refueling.
No, no, no. I'll show
No,
you how you do that. I'll show
it's
you how to do that.
somewhere there
No,
in the legs.
There's a new leg. There's a
Oh,
refuel.
range added. Okay,
Watch
there
this.
is.
Watch this. There's a refuel leg,
Oh,
and you.
nice.
Oh, it's so good. It's really good. Yeah, go download that and look at it. It's gonna make
Yeah,
it so much
I'm doing
easier.
that
Yeah.
right now because yeah.
Well, we'll go over that a little
Uh,
bit more next time. All right. Let me go ahead and stop. All right.
so
Thanks, Tom, for helping out.
no problem. So next Sunday,
Yeah,
same
right around the same
time.
time, we'll do a part two of this and just kind of wrap it up and maybe talk about what we've thought about between now and then. So.
Sure, no problem.